Swadika and good morning. Welcome to Morning Thailand. I'm Wanason Kirahong.
And I'm Palada Moksidi.
Now, of course, Kun Palada, Kun Bo, there's a lot of updates today. But first thing first, it seems like the celebration of Father's Day is coming up very, very soon on December the 5th here in Thailand. And if you're not realize already that the Father's Day here in Thailand is actually our His Majesty the King's birthday celebration as well. Now they say that yesterday at the government house there has been a report of official announcement about the official event that will taking place on the December the 5th itself to celebrate Father's Day as well as His Majesty the King's birthday celebration. They say that yesterday at about 1:30 p.m. at the Nari Samosan building in the government house, Kun Niwat Thamrong Bunsong Phaisan, the Deputy Prime Minister as well as the Commerce Minister, and Kun Thong Thong Jantarangsu of the office, the Prime Minister's office, came out and make an official announcement about the event that will take place on December the 5th. Now they say that the events will be quite various. However, this year a little bit different due to the fact that His Majesty the King as well as Her Majesty the Queen are residing at the Klai Kanfwon Palace in Hua Hin district of Petchaburi province at this point. And of course, this will be the first time that the celebration will be held in the Klai Kanfwon Palace itself. They said that His Majesty the King will grant a visit for all parties, especially the royal descents, to pay him a visit at the Klai Kanfwon Palace on December the 5th in the very morning. And they say that afterward, there will be several events and activities, but His Majesty the King, due to the fact that His Majesty is not that well, he will ask the Crown Prince to preside over various ceremony on behalf of His Majesty the King, and that's going to include, of course, the religious rituals as well as several events and such. Now they say that on the 5th, there would also be several activities that are held by the citizens as well. And that's, of course, the lighting of candles and singing of the march song as well. Now, they say that there will also be an interesting event if you would like to visit, if you're here in Bangkok at the Siam Paragon on the 1st of December all the way to the 10th, an exhibition on the His Majesty the King's royal project, focusing on the development of energy itself. So finding alternative energies and various type of energies that were used here in Thailand, and that is part of the royal project. So if you are interested, there will be several activities for you to attend. But once again, this is a big celebration for everyone here in Thailand.
Yes, I'm sure that lots of provinces will also be joining in on several of the activities that they will be having. I believe that, last year, there were also, the exhibitions of the pictures and finding the people in the pictures as well. Right?
Because
every year they would
was
have
one
that.
of those old, the dated back pictures,
right? And finding the people in the pictures.
So some of them would be children at the time or toddler even, and they found him last year.
Yes.
It was quite interesting event, but for this year, I think we're going to see a little bit different scenery because, of course, this is, like I said, the first time that it will be held at the Klai Kanfwon Palace.
Okay, and moving on to more of the things that are going on here in the country, and this time for an accident that has actually occurred, very unfortunate indeed, in Petchaburi province, because it was a huge fire that erupted at the steel plant in Petchaburi, and it turns out that maybe the cause could have come from an explosion to one of these steel barrels at this particular factory or at the site. Now, just to mention, accordingly to the police, of course, after they went to the scene, there were several people that were injured, at least 7 that were injured and 2 in severe conditions. And this was at the Ksem Trading Factory in Petchaburi province, where the rescue team, the Sawangsan Pet Thamma Sathan Petchaburi, they actually were also there to help out and assist with the injured at that time. And apart from that, just to mention, coming from the head of the staff or the head of the workers here, Weerasak Janjampa, age 44 years old, he said that before the explosion actually occurred, some of the workers were using a crane in order to lift one of the big steel barrels that was containing 20 tons of the extremely hot liquid. And they were about to begin a melting process, while there were also around 10 other workers around in the area below. And apart from that, it turns out that there was one of the hooks of that steel barrel, it snapped. And that's, and you know, with 20 tons of that extremely hot liquid and metal, of course, it just plunged down to another cool water den or cool water well that was under, and it caused a reaction, you know, hot and cold.
Of course.
So that's when the explosion occurred.
Wow.
And, you know, everything was just, you know, flying all over the place. Of course, that's where 7 of the workers were injured and the other 2 were severely injured as well. And of course, at the moment, it's still in the investigation process to find the real cause of the accident. But according to the head of the workers, that basically could be it. Maybe it was a little bit too heavy, or maybe the hooks were, you know, they need more maintenance at that time. But yeah, that's the case that occurred in Petchaburi province there.
And that's the thing, I think workplace hazard here in Thailand, I would say it is quite high compared to a lot of countries. And the thing is, we don't have that great of a safety measure in place. We're prone to do it after the incident happened. And this is one of the things, once again, and hopefully there will be a little bit more safer measures in place in a lot of workplaces, and so we don't have to report about this again. Now, moving on to another incident. I reported about this yesterday about the skimming, the ATM skimming gang that involved 2 Russians as well as one of the tourist police officer. Now, this became quite a big news because not only a Thai person was helping this particular gang getting all the money from Thai nationals themselves, but they're also involved the police who's supposed to look after tourist police supposed to look after, you know, all the incident and such, make sure that, well, such thing doesn't happen. But obviously at this point, Sergeant Major Nontapan Sangsuk has been, he's the one on the left there, the smallest person, of course, and they say that at this point he's already been fired, but the updates on this particular case is that his superior will be questioned as well. There's a committee set up already to question his superiors and find out how could they let this kind of thing happen. Because obviously, if you have your subordinates involved in this type of gang, at least there should be some kind of stricter measures in place or regulations to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Yeah, it almost seems as if it was happening right under his nose and he didn't know about it, or that's why the investigation has to find out whether maybe he did know about it and he just turned a blind eye or not.
So apparently there's not just one superior either. There's going to be several of them that are going to have to answer to this investigation. Now, a more update on this. At this point, all 3 are in the prison in Nakhon Ratchasima province. Of course, this is more or less waiting for the case to be in the court system, so they are just there temporary. However, they say that on another event, there has also been a report in United States where 6 of the American citizens were caught being involved in the same type of money skimming or ATM skimming gang as well. Now they say that the ATM skimming gang in New York, at this point, they say that the people, all 6 of them, were able to withdraw $2.8 million US from the ATM machine itself in 140 spots in New York City. So at this point, this is not the only problem that are facing by Thai people, it seems like it's going everywhere because they say that they believe that this gang is probably involved over 20 countries around the world.
A huge
that,
gang.
Exactly, that are doing this. Either they're same gang or they probably doing this similar type of scamming or scam, excuse me. There you go. And they say that at this point, the latest one that was reported outside Thailand also is in the Germany, where two of the Dutches were actually withdrawing the money from ATM machines in the Düsseldorf, the city in Germany. So at this point, is a global problem, and I think that a lot of people, or at least not only if you're traveling here in Thailand, if you're going outside of the country, be very careful as well because this particular machine, the skimming machine, probably would be able to be installed in different ATM machines around the world. So that means that if you use it elsewhere, if it's not in Thailand, you still have to be very, very careful of, whether or not the machine looks a little bit different.
Well, I think there have been lots of maybe, pictures that were being shared on Facebook as to what you can see to detect whether it's a fake, ATM or, the particular part where you put in the card or not. It basically looks like it's coming out a little bit more. It looks like a little small box could be added on it.
Be a little bit more careful when you withdraw money from the ATM machines at this time because it seems like it's going worldwide.
Yes, and also change your passwords often. I think that also helps, but beware that you have to, of course, remember your passwords every time.
Cover your palms, right?
Okay.
When you press.
Well, still talking about gangs and global networks here, this time also concerning a drug gang, a huge network indeed that was successfully arrested already, and this was by the works of the police officers here in Thailand as well as the U.S. And that's why I say it's a huge gang here where 5 of these foreign drug dealers in particular have already been extradited to the U.S. And according to the Crime Suppression Division, they extradited these 5 foreign men to be charged with the drug offenses in the U.S. Now, the armed police and officers from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, they escorted the inmates from the Klong Prem General Prison to the Don Mueang Airport and then took them on to the charter flight to the US, and this is under the 2003 Extradition Act. Now this group, it consists of 2 Britons, Phil Shackles and Scott Stammer, 1 Slovak, Alexander, and 1 Filipino, Alan Kelly, Perata, and a Taiwanese man, Yi Tiong Tan Lim. Now these men were arrested in Phuket since last month, and it was part of an operation to try to track down and take down an international drug trafficking ring, this one, and it's led by an American, and he used to serve in the U.S. military.
Oh.
Yeah, his name is Joseph Manuel Hunter, age 48. Now, Mr. Hunter here was wanted by the U.S. for drug offenses and the murder as well of a judge, and he had been renting a house in Phuket district along with his Filipino girlfriend. Now he was arrested at the Phuket Country Club and has already been deported to the US. Now the 5 men who are all thought to have worked for him, they were apprehended in the Patong Beach area, not far. As for Mr. Hunter, he's accused of overseeing an international drugs network with arms in Asia, Africa, and Europe, and it's dealing with selling crystal meth and cocaine, and it's in countries including here in Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Taiwan. The National Police Deputy Commissioner Police General Somyot Phumpanmuang said that the arrest represents the most significant organized crime bust in Thailand, for the record at the moment. It's a huge drug bust indeed.
Well, that's one of the sad part, like our country has been, quite nice to a lot of expats and such, is the most preferable place at this point. However, it's also a safe haven for a lot of criminals,
Yes.
unfortunately. And it's good that at least we are able to extradite some back. And obviously, after reading two of the cases involving the foreign gangs, it just shows you that there's still a lot more out there. So if you have any tips and such, don't be shy to share. Seriously, to at least give our police officers some tip-offs and such. At this point, let's take a short break because when we come back, I have a lot more updates in terms of the demonstrations as well as Southern violence, and Kunbo will give you a little bit more details about the tax changes, or I guess a lot of people will get to enjoy it as well, so please stay tuned.